Hey, I'm Kenneth Wajda. I'm a professional photographer here in Colorado. Welcome to another one of my photo chats. So, I mentioned a few weeks ago I was going to be in Street Photography magazine and a story about my Rolleiflex portraits. I was also on a podcast with Bob Patterson. I'll put a link to that below if you didn't get a chance to hear it. But I want to talk about what I've been doing. So, I've been going out with the Rolleiflex and I'm using a very simple kit. This is the bag I showed you once before, and it holds a light meter, which I put in my shirt pocket and I put the strap around my neck, and the Rolleiflex and nothing else. And this is a Rolleiflex 3.5F, and I've been going out, and I figured when I started the project and I was going to be on the magazine, I figured, well, I'll just add a few more photos to the gallery. I have a gallery online, which I'll also put a link to below for you. And I figured, well, I'll just add a few more to the gallery. And I would go out with one roll of film, and my goal was to make one exposure of each person that I stopped. Unless they blinked, or unless it was a group of people and I thought there's a chance that one of them blinked. But I was trying to go out and make 12 photos in one roll of film. And I mostly got 10, I would say on average, per roll. And I kept doing it. And I kept doing it. And I went out and I made one roll after another. And I would shoot sometimes 2 a weekend. And sometimes I would go out on July 4th because it was the 4th of July. I went to a parade and I photographed some people. And then that next day was a weekend, so I went out and shot on the weekend. And then I had a mishap. The worst thing that could have happened, I had another Rolleiflex that had a roll of color film in it. And I had loaded it some time ago, and I figured it was a rather good, fresh roll of Portra 400. So I went to a location to photograph and use a roll of color film, which I don't usually do. I'm a black and white HP5 guy. And I had to go take it down to Denver to get it developed. And so I went down to Denver, I dropped it off at the lab, and while I'm in Denver, well, I'm already down here, I might as well stop somewhere and make some photos. So I put a roll of HP5 in the Rolleiflex and shot down at Union Station, the old train station. And I made a roll of portraits there, and I really liked who I've met and what I found and what I brought back. And then the next day I went down to pick up the film down in Denver because it was color film at the color lab. When I go down to pick it up, it was the worst roll of film ever. The film was 20 years expired. I didn't know that, and it may not have been stored well. The images were thin. I would say that roll of film was the worst thing that happened that week. And I would also say that roll of film was the best thing that happened that week. Because the second day I was down, I also stopped in a really hip area called Rhino, and I made 12 more photos. And if it had not been for that roll of bad color film, I wouldn't have gone to Union Station and made 12. I wouldn't have gone to Rhino and made 12. Everything comes with an opportunity. Then there was a ASMP meeting, which is a professional photographers gathering down in Denver. And I thought, well, I'll just go a little early. And it's real next to another hip area called the Highlands. And I'm like, I'll just walk around, see if I meet enough people here to photograph. And of course I did. And I shot 12 frames before I even went to the ASMP meeting. And then the following weekend I shot another roll. And then the next weekend I shot a roll, maybe 2 rolls, depending on, I only shoot 1 roll each day, but I might have gone out twice. And every time I go out to shoot, I come home, I process, I develop in about 20 minutes, I hang it to dry in about 45, I scan it with a light table on a DSLR, and I'm ready to post them online. I'm ready to make prints. I'm ready to do whatever I want to do with those photographs. I always tell the people who I photograph, I would gladly make you a print if you just contact me and ask for one. And very few do, but some do. And the goal is to get my work out into the world. My goal is to make these photographs live outside of a screen. That's the goal. Some people don't need to do that. Some people just want to make photographs. They just want to go to the lake and fish, but they don't need to catch a fish. I need to catch a fish. I need to put my work out into the world and make it exist in physical form. That's my goal. The way I do it is I go up to people like this. I have a gallery open on my phone, which if I can get it to do it. I have a gallery open on my phone. And I say, excuse me, I use this old vintage camera to make portraits like this. May I make yours? And they look at that and they go, okay. And then I direct them a little bit, and then I move them into different light if they're not in great light. And I give them some style ideas. I give them some ideas what to do with their hands. They like direction. In fact, they've told me, I like that you're directing me. I like that I'm in good hands. And they are, because I know posing and how to get an expression out of people so they're not all just standing like headshots, mugshots. As I work, I always say, you don't have to smile for me. You can, if that's what you choose to do, but don't do it because I asked you to. I want you to be yourself. And usually that will get rid of the obvious fake grin, and they'll give me something that's more them. Sometimes I'll ask them to look at each other. Sometimes I'll ask them to look off, depending on where the light is, depending on what I think the light would do for their eyes. I'll often have them tip their hat up if I want to get a little bit more light on their eyes. I'll often have them, I always have them remove sunglasses for the most part, because I want to have their eyes in the photograph. If it's a wider shot and the sun is a part of the scene, then sometimes I might leave them on. But most of the time, if I'm shooting close-ups, I want to see their eyes. That's an important piece of a portrait, and a very expressive part. So I've been making these portraits, and I've been posting them on socials, and people are clamoring. People are raving. People are saying, this is the best I've seen. I love your work. This is the kind of work that makes me believe in the human race. And all I'm doing is photographing people being human in attractive portraits. And it's been a real win for me, because of all the work that I do, I've often found that these street portraits are some of the most rewarding, and I'm building this audience, and now more people are asking for, when will we get more? We want to see more. Please keep doing this. Please continue this series. I'm loving this series. Comments like that are very, very rewarding. And plus, I get to make prints and gift them to some of those people. And they end up having my work in their world, in their homes, on display. So the Rolleiflex's photo project, it's going great. And I'm loving using this. I haven't been really shooting anything else, because I've just wanted to shoot that camera. That's the camera that makes me want to make work. I can't wait to see who I meet next. Sometimes I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? My last group of photos were so wonderful to me. Will I able to get some to replace it that will top it? And then I find some new people, and they do. And I'm kind of hand-picking at this point. I have so many people, I've shot over 100 people in this series so far this summer, that as I'm going, I'm looking for who's got a good look. That person, oh, I like that. Oh, but they're with that other person, and that person's wearing a t-shirt. Oh, I like that, and oh, they've got a style. And I'll try to stop people who have a little bit of style that I think would be good for the portrait series. So it's kind of like I'm hand-picking my cast of characters for this project. And I can go up to anybody, and that's a simple ask. I use this to make these. May I make yours? And if they say no, and probably 1 in 15 or so do say no, that's fine. And the next person will be coming around the next corner, and I'll ask them, and they'll say yes. So it's been great fun making this project. I'll put a link to all of those things I mentioned, and you can see, and hopefully you'll like them too. All right, that's today's photography talk. Hey, if you're enjoying these, hit the subscribe button. If you can support it, the Patreon. Thanks to all my supporters. I appreciate you. I'll be back next week. We'll talk more photography. As always, here's the good light.